Welcome to another DragonLance Saga review episode. It is Palast Holmes Wealth the 13th. My name is Adam, and today I'm going to give you my spoiler review of The Radiant Dragon by Elaine Cunningham. Now, I am going to be spoiling this story, so if you don't want to know about it, stop watching this feed right now. I would like to take a moment and thank the members of this YouTube channel and invite you to consider becoming a member if you're not already. Of course, you can always pick up gaming materials by using the affiliate link. These are two ways in which you can help support this channel, and I appreciate it if you do, or if you ultimately will in some way. Anyway, again, this is just my perspective. If yours differs, it's okay. Let me know. I want to know what you thought about this novel, so put your thoughts in the chat if you happen to be watching this live, and if not, you can always leave a comment below. All right. The way these things work out is that I'm going to give you my... Man, I've done a lot of feeds lately, like a lot of live streams lately. Are you guys sick of me yet? I shouldn't be doing this much. I need to slow down. I read the book. I write like little synopses as I'm reading them. I usually break up the book in like 4 or 5 pieces. After I finish reading that, I'll just sort of do a bit of a summary. And so I'm going to read my summary. At the end of that, I'll just sort of riff on either characters, setting, thoughts, ideas, whatever. Now, this is a Spelljammer book. It is not a formal Dragonlance novel. So why is this on the channel, you may ask? Well, it's because Teldin Moore, the hero of this, is from Krynn. So, when does Lord Sauce show up and kill everyone? Not soon enough. I'll tell you what, John. If that's the end to this Spelljammer 6-novel set, that's the best possible ending I could ever hope for. Is Lord Sauce just coming in and just pointing a finger and saying, die. And then Teldin just falls over and it says the end. And then I'm a happy camper. All right, so here we go. Thanks for joining live, by the way. I appreciate you. We open with Teldin Moore on a planet called Garden visiting a tavern. A beholder comes in, and 2 Dracons make a joke at its expense. Some female Aperusa Gypsy pulls Teldin into a table, and when the beholder does take offense and disintegrates some of the customers, everyone freaks out and starts running out of the tavern, naturally. The 2 Dracon and King Rozloom and Aperusa Gypsy follow Teldin to his ship, the Valkyrie, and ask for transport. Teldin and his crew agree to take the Dracons to their ship and take Razloom as their cook. The Dracons were... I need to explain because I didn't know what they were. A Dracon it's basically like a centaur where the body is of like a brontosaur, like a dinosaur. And what would normally be like the human half of a centaur is actually like basically like a draconian. I mean, it's like a dragon upper half, but they have like arms and stuff. But they're so massive that it's sort of this comical, sort of a ridiculous situation of asking them to come on your ship. Then you need to make sure your ship can actually hold them, like just the weight capacity of these creatures. It's like a whole thing. I like how they are introducing so many different types of species and races. It's just, it can be a little overwhelming if you're not familiar with it all. So the Dracons are working under the mental control of an Illithid named Natarza, who actually wanted to bring Teldin to her leader. The Dracons realized this, that they were being used, and turned against the Illithid. Teldin's crew comes aboard and rescues them, and Teldin meets Estrus, the Illithid captain of the probe from the second book. He's not working with Natarza, and he actually wants to keep the cloak out of his species' hands. So Teldin reluctantly believes him, and as he fights his way off of the ship. The ships are joined by an elven vessel captained by Valus Leafblower, also formerly from the probe in the second novel, who convinces his Grand Admiral to allow him to try to enlist Teldin's help in the second Inhuman War between the Skrull and the Elves. So if you'll remember, it was the Elves that were trying to kill Teldin at the end of the last novel. So for Valus to go to the admiral of all of the elven armies and be like, look, these guys over here were trying to kill him. They were doing stuff that was very antithetical to the elven way of life. I don't really know why they were doing it. I mean, they know why, but they didn't agree with the methods. And they're like, well, we need the cloak, so we need Teldin to work on our behalf, so you're going to have to go and take the cloak off Teldin. And Valis is like, look, I know the guy. He's not so bad. And I bet if we're not like trying to kill him, he would actually help us. So how about we take that approach instead? Not trying to kill him. Maybe he'll actually look after us a little bit. And they're like, bah, that would never work. But okay, go ahead and try. It's the most ridiculous thing. I find it so funny how every fantasy story or world or campaign always sets elves up as these life-loving, peaceful, divinely good creatures, and yet they're always pricks. Always. Have you ever seen an elven society that is not a straight-up douche? I have yet to find them. Like, they are all straight-up asses. And Spelljammer's no different. Okay. So, all of this while the Skrull are decimating the elven armies and enlisting goblins against them. And this is turning into a massive, galaxy-wide battle, and it's already drawn me in for its strangeness, its political machinations, to say nothing of the action itself, which is pretty good. So Valis allows Teldin to bring the Dracon, half-elf, Illithid, gnome, and Aperusa aboard his Spelljammer, and they end up healing from the battle. The Illithid's ship is destroyed by... the Illithid's ship has destroyed Teldin's ship. So it took days for Teldin to fully heal from that battle, during which time he learned the truth of Estrus's intentions behind the cloak and the medallion that Teldin carries. He begins to trust him again, as the Dracons swear fealty to Teldin as their new Kaba, which is the Dracons' word for leader. So the half-elf / bionoid named Hector Kier makes a friendship with Teldin as well, and everyone is amazed at Rozloom's ability to seduce even the elves aboard Valis' ship. Yes, we have a gypsy who is just a womanizer, and it gets him into trouble a little bit later, but he is so talented and so skilled, it reminds me of I don't know if any of you are old enough to watch, like, remember Cheers, the TV show. So the bar owner of the bar Cheers, he was like a straight up womanizer, and women just loved him. He was just a cool cat. That's what Razloom reminds me of. He's just this crazy, you know, he doesn't really care about anything, but he's apparently really great at seducing women. And it's really kind of funny that they just throw that in there. Prime 1. Lord Soth is my spirit animal. Thanks for joining live. All right, so they're headed to Evermeet to discuss the Spelljammer and cloak with the Moon Elves there. It turns out that the Broken Sphere is believed to be the origin of all life in the universe, including the Spelljammer, and all other spheres have expanded from it as if it were some sort of like a Big Bang or something. Though no one has ever actually seen the Broken Sphere, and it's actually considered to be nothing more than a myth by most people. So Teldin is instructed on how to use the medallion and cloak together by the Moon Elves, and he actually can see from the Spelljammer's perspective. So one thing that you have to keep in mind about the ultimate Spelljammer, like the actual Spelljammer, is that it's sentient. It's a lot like Event Horizon, not as nefarious, I would hope, but Event Horizon is this sort of ship that was meant to fold space-time so you could instantly travel from one part of the universe to another. And what actually ended up happening when they turned it on is it traveled to hell. And when it came back out of hell, it was sort of like infused with the mind or the will of hell or something. Great horror film. If you've never seen it, you should definitely check it out. And Sam Neill is just a boss. So he stars in it, so you have to watch it just for him. He's amazing. But that's what the Spelljammer reminds me of, is the Event Horizon, which is kind of cool, but it's also wildly terrifying why anyone would want to go to it. But so, I mean, that's how he can actually see out of the eyes of the Spelljammer ship, because it's actually alive. So he sees something called a Radiant Dragon, which is, I mean, the way they present it, it's supposed to be the most powerful being in the universe, other than the Spelljammer, apparently. It's just this massively large dragon that can travel fast as, you know, nearly as fast as the speed of light or faster, and it has just immense power. So he sees it briefly in his mind, and the elves are trying to get him to say, look around and look at the stars and look at the different planets that you can see from the Spelljammer's point of view, and we'll use that information to tell how to find the Spelljammer. It makes sense if you have those star charts. So they decide that they want to, that maybe the key to locating the Spelljammer and that they want him to keep trying to do that. But the problem is it taxes him so much emotionally and physically that he can't do it very often. So, they did it the first time. He saw the Radiant Dragon, and then he was pulled out of it because he was too weak. So he's willing to try it again, but he has to wait and basically recuperate. Ironically, the Radiant Dragon's actually looking for Teldin at the exact same time, and comes to the planet where the Moon Elves are, turns into a Moon Elf, and then approaches the Dracons in order to be a member of the crew on Teldin's ship, or actually Valis' ship that turned over to Teldin. So she ensorcels the crew as they change their course to a new planet based on Teldin's scrying. Valis is freaked out by the Moon Elf as she bears the name of an ancient elven hero that is not something that elves do, which clues them into the fact that this is not, in fact, a Moon Elf. Meanwhile, an Arcane, which is one of those really tall blue creatures, and a Lakshu are hunting for the Radiant Dragon as it killed her Rygar master and ship. They land on Teldin's ship, gifted by Valis, and demand the dragon. At this point, Teldin proves to be a total idiot. He glimpsed the dragon when he first met the Moon Elf, but even now can't seem to put two and two together. Though he has done similar things in the past, so I don't know why they don't do it now. I don't understand why this author is making Teldin seem more stupid than he has in past novels, but it is incredibly frustrating reading it. The Lakshu mysteriously dies, and Estrus, the Illithid, mysteriously vanishes. But no time or thought goes into any of this, as the Arcane is also gone, so Teldin just assumes, well, I guess the Illithid Estrus abandoned ship, which again, makes no sense. They try to explain it later on, but it's such a vague, non-fulfilling explanation, it actually makes me emotionally angry. It makes me mad that they didn't do a better job explaining it. So simultaneously, all this is going on. The Scrow General Grimnosh learns of Teldin and the cloak from his spy master K-Tide, and they send a squad of Bionoids to capture Teldin and kill the elves. So a bit of backstory here we're going to need to explain. In the first Inhuman War, the elves created the Bionoids to defeat the goblins, which ended stranding them on this planet called Armistice. Valis' ancestor was the hero of that war. So the Bionoids find Teldin and his ship. They attack and destroy their primary helm, which they use to steer and control the ship. So Teldin takes over with his cloak, and for some strange reason, Hector knows the other Bionids. What are the chances that the Bionid you have on your ship happens to know the other Bionids that are attacking when there are multiple clans scattered throughout the galaxy? I will never know. It is a wild coincidence that actually kind of bothered me also. But I guess they all must know each other. It's just probably still rude if you ask them if they do. So Hector is now apparently killed in the battle, and Valis demands Teldin release control as Teldin is trying to land on, drumroll please, Armistice, which is right next to them. How inconvenient and coincidental at the exact same time. So clearly, Valis doesn't want him to land on Armistice, because Armistice is ostensibly a prison planet for goblins. If they get a hold of Valis' ship, they'll just leave the planet and attack elves. So he's like, no, you can't do this. And the Radiant Dragon in the Moon Elf form is just like, shut up, Valis. He's going to do it. And so she just magics them all to stupidness. The Radiant Dragon stops Valis from stopping Teldin, and then makes Teldin sleep, and then she lands the ship. Once they land, they begin repairing the ship, and Armistice is being watched by a cloaked elven ship that plans on intercepting them once they take air again. A search party leaves their ship and discovers a cavern with the prime Witchlight marauder that was supposedly put there by elves in hibernation to kill all of the planet. So another bit of backstory that you might need to know about the Witchlight marauder. It's never confirmed whether the elves put this creature on Armistice or not. It's just suspected. So Witchlight Marauder comes in 3 forms. And I like to think of it like Aliens, where it has the, not alien, but aliens, has the mother alien who lays those little crazy eggs, which the little hand things come out of, latch on to some form of life, plant their seed inside that life, and then the new alien emerges from it, right? So the prime Witchlight Marauder is basically the mother alien that is wildly dangerous in her own right, and she can like breathe poison gas, and she has multiple mouths that she can like bite people at the same time, but it's basically like a huge monstrous space slug that is really dangerous. She gives birth to what's called a secondary Witchlight Marauder, and these are just massive killing machines, which are large and they have multiple arms, and they're just like these monstrous, crazy killing machines. Those secondary Witchlight Marauders give birth to a tertiary Witchlight Marauder, which is like a miniature form berserker marauder, which will slaughter anything. So the whole premise of these creatures is they destroy all life. Full stop. They don't care. Once all life is destroyed, they destroy each other because they must destroy all life and they are alive. So you put one of these creatures on a planet and they will destroy everything on the planet, period. Then they'll destroy themselves, and the single one remaining will just starve to death and die. And so the entire planet will be wiped out. So why an elf would do that, I don't know, because that's against everything that elves are supposedly against, life and I don't know, whatever, loving life, whatever. But there is a prime Witchlight Marauder that is being kept in hibernation by the ice orcs that populate this planet of Armistice. So they see this incredible amount of spelljammers that have been scrapped together in this cavern as well. So the ice orcs are able to leave, and no one knew about this. This is a dangerous revelation. If the Scrow and ice orcs get together and they control the Witchlight Marauders, the elves are in terrible danger. They return to the Trumpeter under repairs. Hecate has been abducted by the Bionids, and it turns out that they're all of the same clan, and that's why they knew them all. Clan Veer. K-Tide is actually using the Bionids against the Scrow General and plans on dropping a Witchlight Marauder on the Elven secret headquarters of Lionheart. He's been using a spy aboard the Trumpeter to gather information, and now offers Hecate the offer of providing some more of the information in return for his life. Hecate cannot abide by the decision and ends up finding a way of crashing the ship on Armistice as well. This is just the most popular planet, apparently. Killing his clan and hopefully killing K-Tide in the process. So Teldin sees the crash and goes to investigate, only to find that Hecate is actually barely alive, but alive. He brings him back on board, and unbeknownst to everyone, K-Tide snuck on board. They finish repairing the ship and leave land as the ice orcs are also leaving in all of their scrapped together spelljammers. The elven cloaked ship tries to engage them, but they end up dropping a tertiary Witchlight Marauder team, and it devastates the elven crew. The Scrow then move into attack as K-Tide is revealed and killed by Teldin. Razloom, remember that gypsy that likes to have sex with every single female on board? He's revealed to be the spy that K-Tide was paying. And the Radiant Dragon presents her true form to Teldin. Now, to be fair, Teldin did eventually figure out that she was the Radiant Dragon. But this is at the last act of the book. He had to have figured it out before if he is of any intelligence. Like, it's ridiculous that he didn't figure it out before. He sees the dragon's face overlaid on the elf's face. That's all you need. Like, oh, you're cloaking yourself, But no, he's so stupid. There was even a point where he was like, she just turned into a radiant dragon. She's not actually a radiant dragon. Okay, whatever. You're an idiot. So, she tells Teldin that they can be partners to the Spelljammer. She actually knows where it is. She was actually at the Spelljammer, but she doesn't want to be tied to the Spelljammer because if you start controlling it, then you're basically just trapped on it forever. It just sort of consumes you or something like that. Anyway, she doesn't want it, but she wants to have the power that is, inherent within it. So she figures if I can get Teldin to become the Helm Master of the Spelljammer, then he and I will work together. I'll be free to go and do what I want, and every once in a while, I can call on the Spelljammer to help kick someone's ass if I need him to. Okay, makes sense. She knows where it is. She doesn't want to be confined to it. Teldin nearly agrees to the proposal, but he can't leave the elves to die at the hands of the Skrull and the Ice Orcs. So the Radiant Dragon, Pearl, or is her name, she tries to charm Teldin into making him leave. He actually ends up being able to fight off her charm, which infuriates her. But then she decides to take control of the entire situation. If she can't control Teldin, then she's going to get rid of the stinking orcs and Skrull in order to have him come with her. So she unleashes on this armada, and she decimates the majority of it. She crushes the main ship in her body, which is actually what you see on the cover of this novel here. However, inside of that was a secondary Witchlight marauder. And so it starts freaking out, climbing over this Radiant Dragon's back, cutting it up, just devastating its wings, cutting it to pieces. So much so that at one point, the Witchlight marauder tries to inadvertently rip off the amulet, which is her basically her cloak. It's just an item that you can control the Spelljammer with. So it tries to break that off, but there's this defense mechanism built into all of these devices that sort of, attacks the person trying to remove it. And so in the middle of space, this Witchlight marauder tries to break it off, and he's like, yeah! And shocked and thrown off of the Radiant Dragon, flies down to Armistice. So we know what's going to happen down there. And then, because it was cutting up the Radiant Dragon, she can't fly with her wings all cut up, and she's actually really wounded and hurt. She falls down, and we don't know what ended up happening to her, but it's assumed that she's dead. So the Skrull, now with the dragon gone, decide to invade Teldin's ship, the Trumpeter, and they end up being fought off. And then the rest of the armada that has just been sitting there patiently watching for I don't know what reason, decides that is going to be the point that they attack. Teldin knows that they are screwed. They cannot fight off this remaining armada. But if he turns into a Radiant Dragon, maybe he can do what Pearl tried to do but didn't. So that's exactly what he does, and he destroys the entire armada in the form of a Radiant Dragon. It was crazy. He then carries the Trumpeter on his dragon back to the planet called Rattle. After a few days, he wakes from the effort to have heard that Razloom, the Gypsy, invaded Armistice in order to get revenge on them killing the Radiant Dragon that he wanted to sleep with but couldn't, and then kill the orc priests containing the prime Witchlight marauder, which then immediately goes on this kaiju-styled rampage, destroying everyone on the planet. So, not knowing the result of that invasion, Teldin tells Valis that he's leaving, and Valis knows that Teldin can turn into a Radiant Dragon, and that he can't do anything to harm him, so he's like, all right, good luck. I guess I'll go tell the elves not to bug you anymore now that I realize you're the most powerful being in the galaxy, apparently. Teldin leaves to his cabin and looks through the Spelljammer to discover its origin, and that is the end of this novel. Okay, so because each of these books is written by a different author, they each seem very pieced together piecemeal style. Teldin is always alone after every book, it seems. And each book has the orcs and elves trying to take the cloak or vie for his favor, and it never works. At this point, I would just love the last two novels, because there's only two left, just to feel more in harmony with each other, to truly wrap up this story. Now, I'm not sure if it's worth reading the first three novels to get to this one, but I did devour this book pretty quickly, and I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought Pearl the Radiant Dragon was killed way too easily. If she's that powerful, then how did she get murdered so, just by one Witchlight marauder? I don't know. If she is dead, that is. And Estrus vanishing made me wonder why he was brought into the story at all, because he was only here long enough to say, I wasn't trying to take your cloak, Teldin, I really like you. Let's be homies. And then he just popped smoke and left. He left behind this little, like a little statue that communicated telepathically with Teldin, telling him that, hey, I had to leave because I was afraid of the Radiant Dragon that I didn't tell you that I knew was on board the whole time, and I knew it would kill me if it saw me there, so I just decided to leave. Of all the stupid reasons to leave, it felt hollow. It felt pointless. A lot of this novel felt like it was pointless. And they put so much weight in all of these novels about the authority of the Skro or the strength of the Elven Armada, and yet they all suck. They're just not good at anything. I don't understand how they're killing each other because they can't seem to do anything. I don't know. This whole Spelljammer world, it's starting to get under my nerves because it's just, I don't know. It's not, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, there's not a lot of logic that goes into the storytelling. The bad guys are just hollow. You know, they're bad guys because they look like they should be bad guys, you know? The Illithids with the mind flayers with the tentacles. Well, they must be bad guys then, right? Skro are basically space orcs. Well, they're an evil race. They must be bad guys. Those spider things, I can't remember what they're called now. Haven't seen them in a couple books now. But they look evil creatures. They must be bad things. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then you have the elves who are supposed to be the good guys, but then they tried to kill Teldin and his whole crew. They failed, and then they tried to befriend him. So the good guys are actually bad guys, but they're not effective bad guys. They just suck at being bad, and they're certainly not good at being good. I don't know. There's only 2 books left. Give me one good bad guy. That's all I ask. I'm not expecting like a Lord Soth level of bad guy. That would be dope. But just give me a bad guy that I can cheer for being a bad guy, you know? Now, give me a Darth Vader or something. Someone that can come, or just give me a Cenobite that can come out, mess some people up, don't really care whether they get away with what they're trying to get away with or not. They're just there to cause chaos and havoc. Like, give me something like that. A shit disturber, ostensibly. Because everything that they're throwing out as bad guys are just, it turns out being just shitty. And then you're left with the story going, well, what was the purpose of this? I've now read 5, or no, this is the 4th one. I've now read 4 of the 6 novels that have ever been written by Spelljammer. And not one of them has a good bad guy in it. Not one. You have to wonder, in a whole galaxy of D&D worlds, there must be one bad guy that's effective, right? No, not one. Not yet, anyway. However, if you do love Spelljammer, definitely pick up the book. That's what I think about this. Hey, Goldman, thanks for joining live. Good to see you. How you doing, Wade? Glad you caught it too. Chris, what's up, man? Serial, Jay, no backstory needed for killing elves. They don't give you any. They just say, oh, they did it in the past. They're doing it again. That was the first Inhuman War. This is the second. And that's it. I don't know. I don't know what I expected out of Spelljammer. I thought it would have a better story. I thought that because there's so many authors, they would have like a story design team that says, okay, this is where we're starting. This is where we want to get to. Let's break it up into little acts. Each of you authors are going to write these specific different acts, but it all has to play together in this narrative. Instead, we have a beginning and end of each novel that begins and the ends in the almost exact same way as the previous one, never furthering the actual narrative of the whole point of this series, which is Teldin finding the Spelljammer. I mean, if the Radiant Dragon knew where the Spelljammer was, why didn't she just take Teldin? Like, she tried to put him to sleep, but you could just grab him and go. He doesn't have to be conscious or unconscious to do that. Just grab his ass or swallow him and then shit him out once he's on board the Spelljammer. Like, there's a billion ways that you could have taken him to it or have told him where it was. But then that would negate the next book, which is The Broken Sphere, which I'm assuming is going to have a same beginning and end of Teldin getting a ship, losing a ship, orcs or Skro trying to stop him and failing, elves trying to stop him and failing, the Illithids trying to stop him and failing, and oh yes, one more, the Neogi, I remember their name now, them trying to stop him and failing. But he never actually gets any closer to the goddamn Spelljammer. I'm actually more angry about this the more I talk about it than I was reading it. You know, it's one of those things where, like, I watch a lot of Star Wars stuff, and so like I watched the new Obi-Wan series and I'm like, oh, this is fun. This is great. And then I turn it off and then I start thinking about it. I'm like, oh, that's really not great. That actually really bugs me. Like, that makes no sense. Why would that ever be a thing? So this novel series is the exact same way. You read it, it's entertaining. Just don't think about it. If you start thinking about it, you're going to hate it. It's just how it works. It's just not that good, but it's entertaining. So I guess that's okay, right? Like, what do you want out of a pulp story? Entertainment, I guess. You feel like Spelljammer is a setting that should have only existed in the late 70s. Well, it was the late 80s when it came out. And so I guess that's where it should have ended as well, along with all of the clothing of the 80s. You don't know what Spelljammer is, but it sounds like it would make a good MTG artifact. Yeah, I don't know, man. The thing is like Teldin is useless. He's just worthless. He spends all this time with these artifacts that can control the Spelljammer, trying to find the Spelljammer, but he can never actually get there. And he can never actually keep a ship either. Like, they're constantly being destroyed. And I get it. You're doing space warfare. Ships are going to be destroyed. All right. Where's he getting the money to buy these ships? He's never once done a job. You know what I mean? Like, he's never, like, run a smuggling operation for some other criminal empire. He's never worked on behalf of a galactic government or anything like that to gain money. He was a farmer on Krynn. How is he buying spaceships? That it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, all right. And then every friend he makes ends up abandoning his ass. Every one of them. Even ones whom they fall in love with each other. Like, he fell in love with that Kender, like, I think it was the last book or the book before the last book. And the Kender fell in love with him. They refused to admit it to each other. So it was like this weird moonlighting thing with Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis, where there's like, they love each other, but they can never meet at the same moment, you know, in pure happiness. So she abandons him and he lets her leave because, you know, he doesn't want to admit that he loves her for why? I don't know. I don't know, man. I just don't think they planned this out. And it kind of bugs me that I'm investing this much time and energy into reading, writing, and presenting stories that I feel like I'm putting more energy into this than the authors did. I know that's not true, but that's what it feels like. And that's very frustrating for me. All right. Maybe he's the bad guy you're hoping for. Oh, if Teldin ends up being the bad guy, that would turn things around. That would be an interesting turn of events. That would completely change everything for me. But he's also bad at being a bad guy if he is the bad guy, because he fails at everything. So, I don't know. Par for the course here for Spelljammer. Okay, if you like Spelljammer, you got to tell me why. Because I'm starting to turn. Like, I was on the fence initially. I read 4 books. I, reviewed Krynn Space. I thought it was an interesting premise, but the more I look into it, the more it bothers me. So if you're a really big Spelljammer fan, you got to tell me what it is that turns you onto it. Like, what is it? Is it just the books that suck and the game itself is awesome to play? It's got to be something. All right. Well, that is it for my review of The Radiant Dragon by Elaine Cunningham. What did you think about the Spelljammer novel? What do you think about the series of novels thus far? Have you ever played Spelljammer, and does it drive you as crazy as it's clearly driving me? Let me know in the comments below. You can always also email me at info@dlsaga.com. I would like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. And this all goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. And this channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga. And I thank you for joining me. My name is Adam with Dragonlance Saga, and until next time, Slán Javar.